The upcoming federal by-election in Calgary Centre has seen a flurry of political activity. Rowe now joins some of the candidates for this election to talk about their campaign and the issues.
Thanks, Judy. All right, so we're joined here today by Tony Prashad from the Liberal Party of Canada. Libertarian Party of Canada, sorry. Harvey Locke from the Liberal Party and Chris Turner from the Green Party. So the format of our panel discussion today will be, I'll give each of you 3 minutes in turn to discuss what you feel to be the central issues surrounding this election, particularly how they relate to our younger voters. And after that, after you've each been given those 3 minutes, I'll address you with follow-up questions. So we'll start with you, Tony.
Hi, my name's Tony Prashad. I'm a libertarian. I'm a representative of the Libertarian Party of Canada. And what we feel is important as at any time in Canadian history and in Canadian politics is the subject of freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of rights. We want to be able to address items for the future generations now before it gets to a point where there is no choice or the chance to speak your mind and the opportunity to express your satisfaction or dissatisfaction with your government. And as a libertarian believe that there is a need for less government. There is a need to address the issue of taxes. There's an issue to address in standard of living, cost of living. And for university students, you must know coming here from different provinces that when you arrive here in Calgary that there are some challenges to be addressed, and being able to find a proper job and being able to get yourself an affordable place to live. But if the cost of living keeps on rising, and if we allow government to continue to raise taxes, that it just puts education into the hands of a smaller amount of people, and that's not something that has been addressed in a while publicly in the public forum, talking about how we are able to reduce the effects of poverty and the effects of homelessness. And as university students, after you finish university, hopefully your choice will be to stay here in Calgary and to continue and develop yourselves and contribute your energy to the community here. And in doing so, you bring new life to Calgary, and it should be affordable for you, and it should be all-inclusive, and you should be heard. So that's why I'm here as a libertarian. And libertarians, we're not actually political in the sense that we don't strive every year to join into political discussions because in general we feel that the system is corrupt.
All right, well, thank you very much, Tony. Now we can hear from Harvey and what his position is.
Sure. Well, in my view, this election is about values. And the values that I've been running on is a set of integrated values about being fiscally prudent, socially progressive, and environmentally responsible at home and abroad. And I believe that it's important that we move past the idea that those values are competing interests, but rather they're an integrated whole. And we need to work on building a society that works on how to get those things right together, not just the economy as a center of the universe, as the conservative candidate believes. For me, as it relates to young people, we need to think about these issues as fairness across generations. And I've been speaking openly, not just to young audiences, but to all audiences, about what I perceive as the front-loading of unfairness against people younger than me. And by that I mean I know that most young people, your age, think that the Canada Pension Plan will not be there for them, that I will use it up, my generation will use it up, but you'll pay for it your whole lives, and then it'll be empty when you get there. That is completely unfair. There is no way we should do that to you. I am making a rock-solid commitment sitting here that for as long as I'm in public life, I will do everything in my power to ensure the Canada Pension Plan is there for you, just as it will be there for me, and just as it has been there for the people older than me. Another example of fairness across generations is what I consider the unfair rates of tuition that university students pay now. When I went to the University of Calgary in the 1970s, my tuition was $225 a semester. Adjusted for inflation, it's a lot more than that now. Why? There's no reason. In the 1970s, Alberta wasn't as wealthy as it is now. And yet we have tuition levels now that are far more than that amount adjusted for inflation. There's no reason young people should graduate from university crippled with debt. I didn't. My colleagues didn't. I don't know why you should. And it seems to me we've got to rejig that and get it right. And yes, if that means we need to raise more revenue in the form of taxes, then that's what we're going to have to do. And the third thing that I think is really important to fairness across generations is us working on the natural environment with a view to how we can make it better, not worse. It's not a given that things have to continue to decline. We have to be creative. We need to continue to develop our resource economy, absolutely. But we also can think about creative ways to make the natural world better. Those are things that would give a young generation hope going forward. I think my generation owes younger people hope, and I'm going to work very hard on creating an environment where there is a hopeful future for young people.
All right. Thank you very much, Harvey. And now we can hear from Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Turner. I'm the Green Party candidate in this Calgary Centre by-election. And the reason I decided to run in this by-election is because I believe this is Calgary's moment. I think there's a tremendous opportunity in this by-election to capture some of the incredible energy and ambition and dynamism of this city and really send a message to Ottawa about where this city is now and not to take it for granted, to give it a true voice, not just the same old voice that it's had for years and years. The great opportunity in voting for a Green Party candidate is that you're not getting someone who's going to go and join the backbench and get their talking points and be told how to vote. I will have my own voice in Parliament. I'll be able to continue to talk when I get to Ottawa about the same issues that I'm running on here in Calgary. Now, when we're talking about issues that affect young people, obviously the cost of education and the affordability of housing are very, very big issues. These are issues that the Green Party Vision Green platform addresses in full, and I welcome you to have a look at those online. Everything from reducing student debt to reducing the amount of financial burden you take on while you're actually at school. Things like, for example, removing GST from the cost of learning materials. But beyond that, life doesn't stop at the edge of the university campus. And if we're talking about equality of opportunity to education, one thing we need to talk about is the livability and affordability of cities, and in particular, a transit system here in Calgary that has been woefully underfunded by the federal government. And that's why I've actually joined students at campuses here in Calgary in putting together a petition calling on the federal government to develop a national transit strategy that ties post-secondary education institutions into transit networks. We don't have all of our post-secondary institutions on the C-Train network in Calgary. We don't have adequate bus service to those campuses here in Calgary. We really need to give students all the options to get to and from school so they aren't crippled by the cost of a car in addition to the cost of tuition. Beyond that, the really big debt that's being handed off to the younger generation is the debt of climate change, greenhouse gases, an energy future that looks at the moment pretty blurry. And so that's why I think what we need to do is start a new conversation about energy in Ottawa. Right now, it's a very immature conversation. It's a lot of yelling and not a lot of wisdom. The sooner we get started on building that low-carbon, sustainable energy future, the sooner your future will begin to look brighter than ever. And you can begin that conversation on November 26th by sending the second Green Party MP in Canadian history to Parliament.
All right. Thanks, fellas. So I'm going to ask some follow-up questions for each of you. And where I'd like to start is with the question of the youth electorate in Calgary. So we're seeing a stronger youth electorate in Calgary, mostly coming out of the previous civic election that got us Naheed Nenshi for our mayor. Do you think that this speaks to the idea that the youth are becoming more politically active? And if so, where do you feel as campaigning politicians, as potentially sitting politicians, you can access and speak to that new politically active youth and potentially more socially progressive Calgary, especially in Calgary Centre? So we can start with, I guess, Harvey, and hear from everybody else in turn.
Sure. Well, I think it's pretty exciting that we have a youth voting demographic to go along with the Gen X voting demographic, the baby boomers, and the World War II generation. As I see it, there's 4 different groups of people in Calgary Centre. And since we're running in Calgary Centre and I'm a Liberal candidate, I'm going to be talking about Calgary Centre.
Absolutely.
And I've learned that each one of those groups like to access information differently. How you communicate with my mother's generation is not how I communicate with my sons. And so things like social media and interactive media are much more important in communicating with younger people than they are, say, for my mother. What I think is important, though, and I really am excited by young people engaging in politics, is young people I know have a pattern of speaking to their own generation more than they speak across those 4 generations. And we need to start breaking through those membranes. Young people have legitimate points of view that need to become centerpieces of our public policy. That's why I talked about the Canada Pension Plan and making a commitment. You know, one of the things that would shock young people to know is that only young people think that the Canada Pension Plan will be broke. People in my age cohort, when I talk to them about it, they say, well, of course we owe that to them. It's just nobody's talking about it. We need to talk about it, and we need to make the commitment, and we need to make it real, and you need to hold us to it. And it's as simple as that.
So now, on the one hand, as the Liberal Party candidate, it's a lot easier for you to access the different kinds of information and different kinds of media to reach those different generations. Now, my question for Tony is, as the Libertarian candidate with a far lesser financial base, it's much more difficult to reach those different areas. Can you speak to perhaps what your strategies have been and the challenges as a minority party candidate?
Yeah, definitely. The really important thing about this campaign that I'm doing for the Libertarian Party of Canada, being a Libertarian, is keeping money out of the picture. So basically, what you see is a candidate, and I have party backing. But what I've refused to accept is all of the sponsorships of the poster making, the pins, the flyers, all of the media. And basically, for my campaign, for a Libertarian campaign, it means that we saved you money. So in that sense, that's what the campaign is about. It's not about how much was spent or how much attention was garnered. This campaign and any campaign that's going to move forward from this point is going to, the candidates are going to have to demonstrate different skills than the skills that they have been promoting, which is public relations. And what they have to do is basically speak honestly. And I want to address what you were saying before about the student body and the votes. And basically that student movement that happened previously when we got this new mayor, it was an unexpected move, surprisingly, and I'm glad that in terms that it worked. But I want to extend my regards to the student body, but also an extension of caution, because what they can possibly do is become a force, an entity that can be picked up by a political organization and then taken on a journey. And basically, when the parties do that, they're using all of their wealth to promote to the student body, and we have to stay away from actually letting government believe that they have control of us.
All right. Well, speaking to the issue of specifically targeting the youth vote, I think it's time to talk to Chris. Now, your campaign has been very directly compared by several outlets to Nenshie's campaign, and you have a lot of the same people working on it. Have you felt that those untraditional tactics have been successful for you, and how do you respond to that comparison between you and our mayor?
Well, I mean, first of all, I welcome the comparison because I think Mayor Nenshie's campaign was an incredibly inspirational force in Calgary's political life, not just at the municipal level. I think it engaged people in politics in a way they hadn't been engaged in a very long time. And I think it's more than just a parallel. I mean, prior to Mayor Nenshie running for mayor, he and I and a number of other committed citizens here in Calgary founded a group called Civic Camp, and that was directly involved in getting citizens of all ages engaged in politics at the municipal level. And a big part of why I decided to run for the Greens was to give some of that energy outside of the conventional big three party system give that a voice at the federal level. So that's a very big part of my campaign. We've done a lot of outreach, trying to come to Calgary voters of all ages, again, because I don't think youth voters are any different than any other voters. If you talk to them in relevant ways, in places that matter, whether online or off, they will become engaged. And that's why, I've been, campaigning on buses, campaigning in public spaces, going to bars and coffee shops all through the riding, and really trying to come to where the voters are, not waiting for them to come to us. And I think it's really paying off.
Well, I think there's an interesting point that you raise in your comparison to the Nenshi campaign, as well as your earlier point saying that as a Green MP, you would not be beholden to say a federal platform. You'd be free to independently address the issues of Calgary Centre. Do you think that there's a concern of how do you get the message across of what your message is, as opposed to say what Nenshi's message was or what the Green Party message is? How do you get across what your independent view of these issues is and not confuse voters come election day as to where they, what views they're actually supporting when they vote for you?
Well, I mean, it's a good question. I am running under a party banner, and the Green Party absolutely does have a comprehensive platform which is available online for anyone to read. The great thing about the actual caucus in Parliament, however, is that the intention is not for it to be a whipped caucus, which means I don't have to vote the way Elizabeth May votes on every single bill. It means that I can, in fact, put my constituents first, and if those run at odds to the issues that I ran on or what I know are the concerns of my constituents, I'm free to vote outside of party lines when I need to. That said, absolutely, I am the core values that I share with the party are front and center in our campaign. We're talking about livable cities, sustainable energy, all the stuff that's really the absolute core of the Green platform.
Okay. Well, I would say that all three of you are probably more to the progressive side of things than, say, Ms. Crockett, who is not here with us today. And my question for you is that as progressive candidates, as two of you certainly leftist candidates, there's a concern about vote splitting, and there's a concern about that weakening the position versus the Conservative candidate. Now, the website One Calgary Centre has suggested a vote polling strategy, a vote pooling strategy to strategically vote. And my question is what your attitude is toward the idea of strategic voting and whether that's something you would encourage among your supporters. And really anyone can answer.
Sure, I'll go ahead. I've got enough courage left to address it. There's a bit of confusion. You take, for example, the One Calgary site there, and recently they posted on that they were having robocalls coming out proclaiming that it was for One Calgary. So no matter what people are setting up, I choose to be hesitant to drop my hat into any scenario. I want this to be a free and open discussion, it's been going on for many different elections now, and it's all generally in different names and terms, where people are shifted from one way to the other. But what I really like about now, with the information technology age and with the social media, is that in reality, that's where we have a lot of our freedoms, and we have a lot of our ability to express ourselves there, where we're not totally controlled. But as I read in that post for One Calgary Centre, even they are experiencing some sort of glitch in their system. So really, outside of all the usual sources that promote different policies of different government groups, I just like to represent the voice of Calgary, the people of Calgary, because Calgary Centre, it's been neglected for a long time. And I came here from Ontario. I grew up in Quebec, and when I arrived here in Calgary 8 years ago, I could not compare Calgary, what was happening in Calgary, to most of the other Canadian cities that I lived in, and I found that strange. And so in my research and understanding, which leads me to want to enter into the race now, into politics, is that I feel that already freedom of expression has been limited to Calgarians, and we need to address that and give them back their voices and take it away from the camps and the different groups that are promoting other government groups.
All right. Harvey, strategic voting.
Sure.
Are you splitting the left, or should we pool our resources?
Well, I think we owe it to voters to define what we mean by progressive instead of just calling it a label.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, a progressive is someone who's fiscally prudent, socially progressive, and environmentally responsible at home and abroad. And I believe that includes in the Calgary situation more than just voters of the Liberal Party, the NDs, and the Greens. I believe that also includes progressive conservatives. And so my campaign has been about talking about the values, not the labels, of what a progressive means. And I've been inviting everyone who subscribes to that clear set of values to join my campaign, to vote for me and make me the next member of Parliament. I don't agree with any process that is not an electoral process.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with a process that's skewed to one age demographic. For the reasons I talked about earlier, we have 4 demographics in our city. And we need to be very clear that everyone has a voice in a general election, not just a particular cluster of people. So I'm counting on the general election on a Monday to decide whether Calgarians want a progressive candidate, because that's who gets to decide, the people of Calgary who are registered voters. And I think you owe Chris a chance to be clear that Mayor Nenshi has not endorsed his campaign.
No.
Because he made it clear that he hasn't.
No, absolutely not.
I've never suggested that.
All right. So the question then is that we have several candidates who are all running from a progressive standpoint, and we have one candidate who is running from the conservative standpoint. So, Chris, would you agree with the idea of strategic voting or not?
Well, to begin with, my campaign has cooperated with the One Calgary Centre process. We encouraged them. We participated in their beginning unconference, as did the NDP and a progressive Canadian who's no longer in the race. What we look at it, it's one more data point. Voters are trying to figure out, where do I want to put my vote so that it'll have the most meaning and it'll matter the most. And if this gives those voters who've decided to participate in that process, a way to think it through and another data point, we welcome it. I don't see where it does any harm, and it could do a lot of good because there is a lot of concern about vote splitting and about the vote being divided. But what I would say is what I'm finding with our campaign is that we're not dividing the vote, we're uniting it. We're finding support from across the political spectrum. There's a lot of people very excited about our focus on Calgary and the fact that we are inviting them to help us to send a real voice to Calgary, something outside of the existing party system that can really speak to what's happening in the city now. And so, I think the voters of Calgary will decide on November 26th.
Now, Harvey, you keep addressing the point of fiscal prudence. And I'm wondering, is that a fiscally prudent government, a fiscally prudent tax base, a fiscally prudent electorate? Who's being fiscally prudent in this system? Because my concern is that under a liberal system, if you're raising taxes to help tuition, if government is spending more, that sounds like not a very fiscally prudent government. So is that a plan for Calgarians to spend less so the government can spend more? Who's being prudent here in this situation?
Well, we are being prudent. Canadians are being prudent in my fiscal prudence. You'll know that under the Liberal governments of the 1990s, we were able to balance a budget after inheriting a deficit, and then we were able to create a surplus. That's fiscal prudence. Mm-hmm. You pay for the programs as you go. You don't defer the cost of those onto future generations by saying, I want breaks now and someone else can pay for it down the line. It's just like the environment. You don't cash in now and leave an environmental debt to the future. And to double back to that question about vote splitting, I sure don't want to see vote splitting happen either. And I am tied with a Conservative for first place in this election, and I can win. And I really don't want to see the vote split and for that to fall apart.
All right. Well, if I could just jump in, I do have one specific question for both Chris and Tony, because there was an issue that I saw that both of your platforms has addressed that I was curious as to both of your views, and that was on food regulation. And I know that, Tony, you have a history with the Calgary Food Policy Council. Speaking to that, and I know, Chris, your platform also addresses concerns for food regulation. And once you both speak, I'll also let Harvey dive in on this as well, because food regulation has been a growing concern of late in Calgary.
I'll begin. Yeah, you know, I've spoken on the website and when it's come out about the XL Foods crisis, and it's you know, pretty symbolic timing that crisis emerged. You know, just within months of the federal government announcing that it was scaling back the number of food inspectors that they were going to employ for the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. And I think this is a great example of why the Conservative government is playing reckless politics with some of the most vital monitoring and protections that we have put in place. The Omnibus Budget Bill, which was passed this spring, was an incredibly reckless document that, you know, inside of a budget bill, you know, gutted the Fisheries Act, removed all kinds of environmental monitoring. Along with, you know, that bill came all kinds of cuts, like these cuts to food inspection. And it demonstrates that this is a government that just truly does not believe in what government is supposed to do. It's trying to basically, you know, reject a lot of its responsibilities, including food safety. That's the kind of thing, it's the last place you should cut. It's not something you do just to make yourself look good in the balance books. And it's I think it's symptomatic of a government that has lost a lot of the faith of the public, and I think that's why we are seeing so much interest in this campaign and why we're going to be sending a Green Party candidate to Ottawa.
All right, so more inspectors, more regulation. Tony, I feel that you probably have a very different answer to this question.
Well, I just want to bring up that the food regulation bill did go through, and Elizabeth May supported it. So Green Party supported a Conservative platform. So because of these kind of scenarios happening in our government and in politics and in our daily lives, it just became that my platform developed from more than food regulation into food security, which means that we have to take control of our food system as a body, as Calgary Centre making a statement in terms of how it addresses the food issue, regulations, accessibility, affordability. These items, these issues have they're just terms that just get thrown around by different parties, and nothing actually gets done. So my platform is about building resiliency in our community, and for actually doing something instead of just addressing the issues of food regulation and accessibility and affordability. We're going to do something. We're going to put forward, and I said it in my at other forums. You know, depending on what my wage would be if I was elected, I would take $20,000 or a certain amount, 1/5, 1/6 of it, and I would use that as the impetus to start the action towards food security.
So the food security, in your view, would be being regulated or being controlled or looked after by who? That would be a private board?
Well, this is where if you elect a libertarian to govern, to go to Parliament, you're going to be able to have the liberty to express your opinions. And with the other government parties that we have, it's not necessarily true, or the solutions won't come immediately. The other parties have lots of other pressing issues, like raising taxes so that the tuitions go up without you noticing. So there's all these different standards that are happening, but really what we need to address are the basic issues of human dignity and respect.
All right.
You want me to speak to that?
And I just like to add, from the progressive points, even, you know, I'm a libertarian, but I did get the support from the Progressive Party of Canada for my campaign, which is a huge step in terms of, if you're going to choose a progressive candidate, we had a progressive candidate that didn't get accepted into the riding, into the debates.
Progressive Canadian Party, Ben Christensen.
Yeah, Ben Christensen.
Well, I'm being told that we're going to need to wrap things up, so if I could just get 30-second statements from each of you to wrap things up. Final statement to our audience, please. Starting with Chris, and we'll move down the line this way.
Right. Well, you know, this by-election is an extraordinary opportunity for Calgarians to really send a clear message to Ottawa now. The other parties are looking to jockey for position for 2015. My campaign has built the momentum that we have and has the chance to win, and we know we're going to win because Calgarians are engaged right now in the process of change. We're not willing to wait until 2015. We want that voice now. You can send a Liberal or NDP or Conservative member, and it's just another backbencher. But if we send the second Green MP in Canadian history to Parliament on November 26th, that will be truly history-making. It will be a signal change in the process that is going to lead to a fundamental change in the way we govern this country.
All right, thanks, Chris. Harvey?
I think this election is about the face that Calgary wants to show to the rest of the country. I think this city really is progressive. I think Calgary Centre in particular is full of progressive people who share the ideas of integrated thinking as opposed to everything being about the economy. And as a kid who was born here and who grew up here, who went to this university, I think I have a legitimate chance to beat the Conservative candidate on Monday, to carry a fresh face to Ottawa, a Liberal face, to say we're ready to take a seat at the head table of the Liberal Party of Canada with progressive values from Calgary to break the Conservative monopoly on the city and to do something very historic for our city, which is to say now that we've reached 1.2 million people, we're ready for political diversity, and I'm looking forward to being your member of Parliament on Monday. Please vote for me. Please don't split the vote. We can do it.
All right, and Tony, 30 seconds.
What I'd like to see happen here in Calgary is that Calgary is actually going to transform into the agricultural heartland of Canada as it was initially proclaimed to be. And the reason for that is that agriculture is our backbone. It is where we came from. It's part of our our history. And what we're under attack in a sense that our food system is outsourced to outside agencies, and we don't have control over what we're bringing in to for our population. And so being able to access healthy, nutritious, locally grown foods is going to be a huge step forward. And also to bring it to Calgary Stampede so that Stampede can revitalize itself and bring new life to it after all of the years of issues with the animal deaths and things, which are very unfortunate. But we need new life in Calgary, and agriculture is a great way to do it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for all taking the time to be here. We're glad to hear your words and happy to have you. So thank you so much, and good luck on Monday, everybody.
Good luck. Yep.